My name is Alejandra Silva. I am the director of Venture Cafe Miami, and tonight we're streaming live from Hireline's YouTube channel, straight up from Miami in our Tech and Talent Conference. And this is going to be a very dynamic podcast where we're going to talk about working with remote tech teams. And I have the pleasure to be here with Anthony. Anthony, I want you to tell me a little bit about yourself, a little bit about what you do, and then we'll take it from there.
Thank you, Alejandra. Excited to be here tonight. So, who am I? I'm Anthony. I'm originally Italian and French. I've been in Miami now for 10 years, and I'm an entrepreneur. What I do, I have a financial technology application that aims to make it easy for anyone to invest in Africa's best opportunities. So think of it as a Robinhood / angel list, but focused on Africa.
Okay.
And the beauty about it is that most of our team is not just based here in the US, but we're spread across the world.
Okay, I love that. And tell me a little bit more on where is your team based and why?
Oh, that's a good question. So I'm just going to get closer to the mic to make sure everyone can hear me. So our team is mostly based across the African region.
Okay.
So in different countries, Nigeria, Ghana, and Kenya. And why is that? Well, there are multiple reasons. Number one, we're building mostly for Africans by Africans. It's something that we really believe in. We want Africans to be at the core of what we're building, on the one hand. And number two, because of what we're doing, there's some knowledge. There's some technologies that do not exist in the US. Mobile money being an example. And we need to make sure that the folks, especially our engineering team who's behind it, has the local understanding and the context to bring this product to life.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about your onboarding process when you decide to select the right candidates based in Africa.
All right, that's a tough one. So number one, of course, there's quite a bit of interviewing that goes into not being close to the person and not being able to know them. You definitely want to make sure that you spend time understanding, first of all, is it the right skill set? Number one. Number two, is it a fit within the culture of the company? Because being remote, it is also hard to build culture, but if done in a proper manner, it can also be an easy way. So how do we onboard them? Well, different steps. Number one, we tell them about what the company does. And then for each specific roles that they have within the company, we have a description really where we walk through and say, hey, you are in engineering. This is exactly what you'll do. This is how you fit in, the company. This is why we believe you are a great fit for a company, and this is why we chose you to help us bring our mission to life.
Okay, so would you think that there are some specific qualities that you kind of target when it comes to choosing the right remote workers?
Yeah, absolutely. For us, what is really important, like I said, I really want to double down on this, is the vision and the mission. Making sure that there is an alignment is very, very important, number one. Number two, being that the person doesn't work in the office and you're not next to them, they need to be self-starters by definition. And we're very flexible in the sense that we have working hours at which we would like for them to be active and responsive on Slack. However, our goal is we're really task-driven. Everyone has their specific task, and as long as they're completed on time, they have really the time that they want to do it. So.
I remember a while back when we were talking a little bit about why you're doing the work you're doing with Daba, correct?
Yeah.
And you talked to me about impact, and that you wanted to be in a space where you were really impacting others. Do you think that this is something that transpires through your interview process? And do you think that it's important and relevant for them to be aligned with that mission? And how do you perceive that? Like, how do you say, okay, this person really wants to drive this path of helping others and making a difference for others?
Yeah. So there's different ways really that we think about it, right? And we look at things. So number one, on the one hand, for us, it is a huge motivation to show the world that the talent is really spread evenly across the world and not just in the US. So that's kind of our big statement. Say, hey, talent is everywhere, whether it's Latin America, Asia, Africa, Europe, everywhere there is talent, not just here in the US. So that's number one. Number two, for them, there is some sort of pride to be working for a company that is not within their geography. And, hey, I'm working for a US company or a US-based company. It gets them excited to say, hey, I have this availability to work for a foreign company that is here looking for me and hiring me instead of hiring another and other candidates. So those are the two really main things. And just to touch on mission, I think is really part of how, during the interview process, how you convey what you do and explaining the impact that really, and how the mission aligns every day with what you're doing. So our goal is not only to bring more money and more investments to Africa, but it's also change the way people perceive Africa overall.
I like that a lot. And I think that on my end, I've never had the opportunity to manage a remote team, but I've been part of a remote team before. And one of the things that I battled a lot in the past was being demotivated and feeling disconnected, I'm naturally an extrovert and I love connecting with people and really engaging with others all the time. And I want to know, just to pick on your brain a little bit, if there are any strategies or any tactics that you have with Daba that help you keep your team driven and really active within the entire team without just feeling isolated in their own room in a different part of the world,
Yeah, that's a really important one, and thank you for bringing it up. So 3 ways. Number one, because our teams are geographically pretty close, we have at least visited them once in person.
Okay.
So being able to put, a face to their name at least once was great. Number 2 is on calls. Every time we have calls, we try and keep 5 to 10 minutes towards the end where we crank jokes. We just talk about our personal lives and just kind of bring a little bit more routine to how things are, right? Just not, hey, how's your work? Have you done this? Have you done that? What else is going on in your life? So, for example, right now in Nigeria, presidential election are going on. So we ask, hey, how you getting ready for that? Are you going to vote and whatnot? And another one, which is perhaps the simplest one, is having a channel dedicated for fun things outside the office.
I like that.
So everyone being able to share, hey, this is what I did this weekend. This is my dog. This is my favorite soccer team. So this is another way that we're going about it.
I like that. It's a little bit of finding that perfect balance to not make everything 100% work, but being connected in a more personal approach. Now, let me take you into an interesting question because I want to know about turnover. Tell me how many times you've had to change your employees. Is there been a time where you've had to make a tough decision and let somebody go? And, how do you convey that opinion, considering it's kind of hard to really, get the entire picture of somebody when you're not every day connected with them and really on top of the work that they're doing on an hourly basis, like on a regular office environment. So tell me a little bit more about turnover and how do you manage that space?
Yeah, so we've been quite lucky.
Okay.
We're currently a team of 17 full-time,
Wow.
including myself and my co-founder. And so far, we just had perhaps 2 people that we had to let go out of 15 others, and everyone is remote, so pretty lucky. Or we might have been also good at choosing the right candidates.
Okay.
How did we manage it? We're very, there's KPIs and OKRs that we have, specific key metrics that we follow. And once we see that they're not being followed, we follow up once. Hey, is everything okay? 2 times, 3 times, and after, it's hard, but when the result is not there, you have to make that decision.
Is there a specific challenge that you want to share with us, that maybe tell me a little bit of a story or an anecdote that you experienced working with one of your remote employees that will be interesting for others to know about?
Yeah, working with teams in emerging markets, there's often time with electricity, internet that they cut. So you're in the middle of the conversation, in the juicy part of the conversation where the most important part you're about to share with them how the product works, and then suddenly the connection just goes away and you're like, okay. And you wait a little bit and it just doesn't work. So that sometimes, electricity has been one. Network has been also sometimes difficult. But it's just part of it. It's part of the game. I'm totally fine with that.
Do you think that Daba will continue working with the remote landscape within the next 5 years? Do you think that maybe a hybrid, team will work better, considering I know you and your team, your co-founder, travel a lot, are usually in different countries and really mobilizing the work that you do? Do you think that you'll remain with the same structure, or you think that there will be changes to the current team that you have?
No, great question. So I think we'll always be a remote organization, at least for the near future. At some point, we would love, whenever we can, to bring perhaps some of our engineering team together because they also want to be perhaps closer and have fun. But for the most part, no, the goal is to stay a remote organization. And I think it also plays a lot on the morale and, in certain countries, there's a lot of traffic when you have to go to work. So for them, being at home, being at ease, being close to their family is just priceless.
Makes a difference.
And we value that a lot.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. And all of you who are watching us live, stay tuned because we'll have another episode in a few minutes. So thank you, and we'll see you next time.